Yeah, hello and welcome to our lecture series, Climate Protection. So I would like to say welcome also to our participants from Aurora. This lecture is also transferred to the Aurora Hub Sustainability and Climate Challenge. So the colleagues from University of Duisburg-Essen are also linked today and can listen to the lecture today. Again, I would like to ask you to write, to invite you to write some slogans. At our last closing event, we will transform these into a kind of action similar to the action in Vienna, the Sea of Flags, which was designed by the artists of future. Mrs. Bach did this kind of action, and we want to do a similar thing with these slogans that you write into this document. So you're welcome to write more of them, and then we will do something like a piece of art out of it. So you're welcome to write more of these slogans. Thank you very much for this contribution. So these are some photos of the Sea of Flags, yeah, from the artists of future. Yeah, but today we have a guest lecturer from Linz, Oliver Schrot. Welcome to our lecture of today. Oliver Schrot is a climate coordinator for the city of Linz, and his task is to transform Linz to a climate neutral industrial city. This year in March, the concept of climate neutrality for the city of Linz was presented. This 52 measures in 7 fields of actions were defined in 100-page concept, which must be implemented by 2030. The following quote from Oliver Schrot shows that it's not just about measures, but also about cooperation and commitment of all of the people in the community. Understanding the climate crisis as a cross-cutting issue, looking for solutions in the combination of technology and culture, accompanying people in the climate social transformation, urbanity, that's what drives me. That's a quote from Oliver Schrot, and he is also managing director of his own company, Zwanzigvierzig, and he's working on greenhouse gas accounting, monitoring and reporting, environmental social governance, climate networks and partnerships, as well as climate-related special projects of all kinds. So we are looking forward to your presentation, Climate Action in Austrian Cities, Current State and Future Outlook. Welcome to our lecture. Thank you.
Good afternoon from my side, colleagues here in the auditorium and also on the screen. Thank you, Dr. Pfluger, for inviting me. I'm very happy to join you today, this afternoon, because I have some personal history also with the University of Duisburg, more than in the next few slides. As mentioned before, I'm here with Zwanzigvierzig, which is my own advisory company. Today it's about climate action in Austrian cities, what's about the current state and also what's needed in the future. So also give you a future outlook on climate action on a very urban, local scale. A few words to my persona. I have a background, or was trained in environmental sciences at the university, at Boca University in Vienna. Did there a bachelor program, and then I joined a double degree master, 1 year Boca in Vienna, and 1 year I was living and studying in Copenhagen, at the University of Copenhagen, which was a very interesting time. I spent there a wonderful year, and also was was doing my master thesis in Copenhagen, and there I was very lucky to meet the lead author of the IPCC, Jens Hesselberg Christensen, and he was my master supervisor, and learned a lot of things with climate models and impact assessment from him. And after this time, was looking for a job in Austria. Came back and I found something here in Innsbruck at the Institute of Geography. Was doing a PhD. Was working as a project associate, a project dealing with climate change education, very focused on adaptation issues here in North Tyrol and also in South Tyrol in Italy. This was 27 to 2020, and after this time, I moved to Linz. Originally, I was born in Linz and went back to my hometown, so to say, because they were looking for a new position as a climate coordinator. And this very much applied to me, and it was very attractive from the duties and from the tasks they were looking. And yeah, I started in 2020 in Linz. I'm still a climate coordinator there. I started as a single person in a single bureau, and now since last September, I'm head of the department for economy, innovation, climate change mitigation, and European Union affairs. So this also, I think, shows how dynamic this field of urban climate action is. I think Austrian cities, compared to other cities in Europe, probably weren't the first front-runner cities in climate action, but we have a strong dynamic in the last years, and this is also what I experienced. And now I have broad topics and broad duties to cover in the city of Linz. And last year I also founded the company Zwanzigvierzig because as I see it and as I perceive it, the climate transformation really hits very strong also in the economic world. And this is also very important that our economic system gradually shifts and makes a transition towards decarbonization and green technologies and also sustainability. But let's have a look on the topics of today. I always start with a big picture. So what's going on globally with cities and climate change? What are the relationships? I guess you already know something. I hope I can also present some new information. Then we will go back on the national level, talking about climate risks and vulnerabilities and adaptation issues in Austria on a national scale, but also very specifically in cities. And the same we do then with mitigation issues. So what about the current state of greenhouse gas emissions in Austrian cities? And there we'll always try to pick, of course, the big three cities, Vienna, Graz, and Linz, but I will also have a look at many others, especially at the more or less the last input from my side, frontal input, which is selected climate action projects. And this is a very random selection of some projects I think are very interesting at the moment in Austrian cities, and also some of them can be understood as pacemakers for this transformation. And what I really like to do with you guys today at this afternoon, having a discussion also about the presented information, the topics, and maybe also what you think about the urban challenges lying ahead of us. Cities and climate change from a global perspective. I think you probably all know this graphic. It's from the latest IPCC assessment report, and basically this is some kind of observation of global temperature change since the pre-industrial times. So we now have already experienced an increase of 1.5 degrees. And it very much depends on our political decisions now and in the next 20 to 30 years, which trajectory we are heading for mid of century and also end of century. So if we are not able to defossilize, to decouple economic growth and energy intensity of fossil energy use, and we have some kind of a very rival situation. We are very fully developed in international collaboration, also across national states, and we largely fail to meet the Paris Agreement. We will get problems by end of this century in terms of temperature increase and climate change, because then we will very likely experience climate change of +3 and more degrees compared to pre-industrial times. But this is more or less the dystopian view, because there are already a lot of solutions there. We know most of the tasks, and we have instruments. We have also the diplomatic know-how to govern this international crisis, the climate crisis, global crisis, and we already. It's very late for action, but it's still possible to meet to stay below the 2 degrees limit of the Paris Agreement, and probably will be in between, but we'll see. That's really what something the future will bring. But it's the quality of life in urban areas and also the decisions related in climate policy. They are very much interconnected, and I hope I can give you an insight today. Our future, that's what we can also say from today's view, is urban. By mid of the century, 2 out of every 3 people are likely to be living in cities globally. Urban centers or urban infrastructure is rapidly increasing. So in the 1950s, there were approximately 30% of the global population was living in cities, and by mid of the century, it's already will be 70%. And what's also interesting, the megacities, there will be more of them. So 33 cities in the world will have 10 million inhabitants already by 2030. And if you take a close look, I've not presented it as a graphic, but if you take a close look, this rapid increase very much happens in African cities and Asian cities, and not so much in European or Anglo-American cities. So we have a very interesting dynamic here, and cities that really will boost is, for instance, Nairobi, or also Baghdad, or Ho Chi Minh City, or also Dar es Salaam in Tanzania. So there will be very, very interesting population dynamics going on there. Urbanization and climate change are related, and I was honored. The Republic of Austria had nominated a few experts to also participate in the special report on climate change and cities by the IPCC, which currently is under development. Unfortunately, it wasn't selected because there are many more qualified people and experts here in Austria, and we have very good scientists also on this issue. But I felt very honored to be at least nominated, and I think it's very important that we, the IPCC, will have this report. This is the only special report produced by the IPCC in the 7th assessment cycle. And there was a first meeting in April 24 with 140 experts from 65 countries in Latvia and in Riga, and they drafted already the outline for this special report I'm really much looking forward to. I think it's really necessary that we have this this profound scientific analysis and review of all this information. But let's go back one step. So what's in for cities in the latest 6 assessment reports? So as you know, there isn't just one report. There are many of them. So there is one working group dealing with the physical science basis. There is one working group dealing with impacts and also what we can do against these impacts in terms of adaptation. And there is also one working group dealing with countermeasures. So in terms of how to reduce energy greenhouse gas emissions and also how to use energy efficiently. And this is the mitigation of climate change part of the IPCC reports. And these reports are very, very relevant also if you are working in a city. So like me in the city of Linz, we use it maybe not daily, but it is very important information also for our concepts. And we, or at least I and my colleagues in Linz, we are very close with also the scientific network in Austria and beyond to get the latest information. So what are the key statements from assessment report on climate change in cities? Of course, there are special interactions because cities, they modify also the climate. So think of heat islands. I will give you a more detailed insight later on, but also about the water cycle. So the water cycle is completely different in a city than in a more rural area. And it is fact that cities will be more affected by extreme climate events, so like extreme heat waves, and also maybe that's often overlooked here in Austria, but because we are not close to an ocean or a sea, but also coastal city flooding really is an issue. So think about, or I always think about the example of Miami. So I can remember there were some very prominent pictures in the news the last years, or just think about, I don't know, Venice, which is not not far away, or other cities. What also important and what is a vulnerability of cities, this is pluvial flood. So from very intense rain events, we see pluvial flooding in every city, at least in Austria. And interestingly, urbanization is continuing also in the climate, in every climate scenario. So we will have an effect of urbanization amplifying climate indices. For example, maybe the most important impact of climate change, and also a very strong vulnerability for urban citizens or inhabitants, is of course our heat. So because cities suffer from the urban heat island effect. I'm sure many of you have already heard of this. And what's this in a nutshell? So we see that cities, they have a different morphology in terms of land use. We have strongly sealed surfaces, paved surfaces. We have dark rooftops, dark elements, streets. We have in the streets, in different districts, we have also production. So, for instance, industrial production, heat generation, or other, or traffic, and all those things also, cause heat, and additionally heat the city next to albedo-related heat temperature phenomena. And of course, this is strongly felt by the population. So think about heat waves also here in Innsbruck, and also the not only during the day, but during the late afternoon, where the urban heat island effect peaks, but also during the night, because this heat or long wave radiation is then slowly going back or emitted into the atmosphere. And the effect is that we have very often up to 8 to 10 degrees more compared to rural or non-urban areas compared to farmland. Heat islands are experienced globally, but with different patterns. This is also very interesting because the heat island effect also depends on biome, on also latitude, and also city-specific characteristics. So, for instance, how densely populated the city is, or how is the allocation of impervious surfaces, and also canopy cover plays an essential role in how pronounced this urban heat island effect really is. I really like this graph because it shows that this urban heat island effect in other cities, in maybe cities in Asia, as you can see here, or Cairo, or New Delhi, or Jakarta, not Jakarta, but Tehran, you see that the urban heat island effect is switched. So there we see the strongest signal at night and not during the day, which is also very interesting from this analysis. This graph is also from this paper. From Urban et al. Is a very funny coincidence from the researcher's name, doing research on cities. But I think it's very relevant. It's a very recent paper because it says that urbanization is more than not only demographic changes, it's also the associated physical change, also of natural landscapes. Because if a city is growing and expanding, we will see some transformation of this natural landscape belonging to the city. And there we have strong interactive effects. And what is up to now relatively understudied is the effects on biodiversity. And I think this is very, very relevant because we shouldn't forget that also we see migration also from species due to climate change. And what's also possible is that cities can also get oases for species that probably will have a stronger or will have problems in their current environment, maybe more in the rural side. Some species also can migrate into the city if the city is well designed. I'll give you then a few examples. Because climate change also very often drives surrounding areas, and this is very interesting, and also the necessity to get blue infrastructure, like green infrastructure in cities, like artificial ponds and stuff like that. And what's of course is a big trend at the moment in urban development is adding natural vegetation and climatic infrastructure to cities to be sustainable. And I have researched or collected some interesting examples for you. So I'm not sure if anybody has been to Singapore before, but what I really like is this Pisang Park here, and this was a very poorly vegetated storm drain built out of concrete, and it was transformed into a 3 kilometers meandering river with vegetation banks and applying civil engineering methods, but also nature-based solutions. And the effects are really interesting. So, for instance, we see in this park an increase in the socio-economic value by nearly 4 times. And also we see that at the moment there are 100 birds species living there. So we have, and it's very attractive and also important for citizens to deal with heat stress. So there are great examples. But of course, cities are not only affected by the impact of climate change, they also play a big role in causing emissions. This is because cities, to run their activities, they require an uninterrupted supply of energy. And the mainstream information is that they consume about 75% of global primary energy and emit up to 60% of world's total greenhouse gases. But this is only if you look at production-based emissions. I will give you an explanation later on what this is. But if you also look at all the emissions that occur when we buy products and import goods from other countries, for instance, for consumption, this we also have to take into our greenhouse gas perspective. Because when we also include these indirect emissions, we see that in cities 80% of world's greenhouse gases are occurring. So when we speak about climate neutral cities, we also need to tackle sustainable consumption or a climate friendly lifestyle. So it's not enough to transform our energy production, not enough to switch to soft, climate-friendly, active mobility. No, it's also necessary to work on this consumption issue. Cities are not alone. They are observed to build strong alliances and initiatives, and maybe there are many of them. So if you do your research or do a quick Google search, you will find dozens, hundreds of initiatives, probably thousands. And maybe one of the largest global alliance for city climate leadership is the Global Covenant of Mayors for Climate and Energy. In this initiative, cities are required to develop energy plans, to develop mitigation plans, and they receive assistance, they receive some kind of consulting. And we see that globally there are up to 14,000 participating cities already. And yeah, and if you take a look at this quote from Michael Bloomberg, the former city of New York in the US, I think it's a very strong quote that cities are really eager to lead the fight against climate change. But of course, cities cannot act independently, so they also cannot bring every action into get every action done alone. So because cities belong to nation states, and nation states are also the main target group of the 2016 Paris Agreement. The Paris Agreement defined also this 1.5 or 2 degree limit of climate change by end of the century, and also had many other important goals related to international collaboration and also to adaptation and mitigation specific questions. But cities are not really mentioned, or they are not a key target group of the Paris Agreement, because this is nation state. But the Paris Agreement recognizes that also on the subnational, also on the city level, and but also non-state climate actions are strongly needed to get this transformation done. So cities, while being the main cause of climate change, they're also the most affected. It's about energy, it's about buildings, mobility, and also interesting planning solutions and innovations of all kinds that have the potential to deliver major emission cuts. So this was the global picture, and now we'll dive more deeply into the Austrian context. I will start with adaptation or what climate risks we observe already, and we will very likely experience in Austria. One of the the most important source for climate projections in Austria is the ÖKS 15, so climate scenarios for Austria, a common project by many important institutions, and they have run climate models for different scenarios, different forcings, and have projected many the development of many climate indices for different time periods. So this graph is about the change of average annual temperature in Austria, and it depends on how ambitious climate policy will develop. We will get an increase of 1.3 degrees, or up to 1.4 by mid of the century, and by end of the century, when there is business as usual conditions, we will experience 4 degrees temperature change, and with higher values in the west and in the south. Then in the more optimistic mitigation scenario, the 4.5. And this operation is done for many other climate indices, so not only for average annual temperature, and climate scientists also do this for hot days and also the heat days. So with days over 30 degrees centigrade. And this is an important operation because many impact assessments, and also the impact assessments currently done by companies in the European Union Taxonomy Directive, they use the ÖKS 15 climate projection data. So for heat days, we see in the projections in the distant future, so in 2070 to 2100, so end of the century, in a business as usual worst case situation, there will be 17 more heat days on average in Austria, which is massive, and has massive consequences also for cities. We stay within the limits of the Paris Agreement, and then we still will have 1 week more of on average on heat days. The same operation can be done for precipitation for Austria. Precipitation is in general more complicated to check for climate models. We see a high spatial and temporal variability also in the observations, in the projections as well. And there is seasonal comparisons can be done. So these two graphs are about precipitation in winter months and precipitation in summer. I'll also present to you. And there, the more time passes, the more we get into the distant future. The projections show a more clear picture. So for instance, the change in maximum daily precipitation that becomes clear in the distant future for both the pessimistic and the optimistic scenario for large areas in Austria. For instance, we see in the business as usual case a 23% increase of maximum daily precipitation in the ÖKS 15 data, and this has also a strong impact for Pfluger flooding. But of course, these are the best informed guesses, I would say we have, and also very relevant for practical solutions, and also our work in the cities, because we need a strong climate community in Austria giving and presenting also this information to us, and we need to translate this robust, scientifically robust information into urban actions. Also for you, I did a quick research on a review of the national adaptation strategy in Austria. Austria was one of the first countries in the European Union writing such a report, and this is also the reason why we have already a second updated report already. And the national adaptation strategy finds that both large and medium-sized cities in Austria are at the moment increasingly observed dealing with manifold effects of climate change. And at the same time, also the authors see that there are more and more solutions in place. I will give you some insights on solutions and strategies in the next slide. So what are the main impacts we are dealing with in cities? Drinking water, of course. Just think of very dry areas in Austria, like the Mühlviertel region, for instance. We had already some issues with drinking water there, also not only in cities but also in the rural areas. But of course, also this flood risk. I'm not sure which year this happened, but when I worked here at the University of Innsbruck, I was 2017 to 2020, and I don't know, was it 2018 or something, or 19? We had some flood event here next to the university. Also, that there was some serious concern, and also this temporary flood walls were already installed to protect the library here in this complex. So this is all real, and what we see in the adaptation strategy of impacts can already be observed in cities, and also in Innsbruck. What's also interesting and important is to get a resilient energy infrastructure, which is also robust to temperature shocks and also to other climate-related extreme events, also to flooding. And important here is also to decentralize energy generation and power input. Some other impacts and adaptation measures necessary in cities is to, of course, in cities many issues are dealing with buildings. So we have a lot of buildings, of course, in cities, and we need to protect them. The old ones, they're already here, and also the buildings that are already constructed or will be constructed in future, they need to be highly protected, and they need to have high standards to be robust and resilient against heat stress. So we can see that passive and active cooling is in the moment in practice is a big thing to get enough cooling infrastructure, also to provide safe building environment and conditions, also under all climate futures. What's interesting is not only that the buildings per se need to be climate resilient, but also the open spaces next to buildings, also the squares, the streets. They need more improved microclimatic and mesoclimatic conditions. Showing you in the next slide some examples. And of course, what's really important is these are all more kind technical or infrastructure-led measures. What's also important in terms of vulnerability is how people use this infrastructure. If they also know how to protect themselves against heat and other climate impacts, it's very important also for a city to invest in awareness training of their inhabitants, also for adaptation issues. So, for example, last week in Linz, the municipal council voted for a heat emergency plan to be developed, and this very much is related also to the statements in the Austrian adaptation strategy. Some examples of what's going on in practice. So Vienna probably is the city that started quite early, with quotation marks, dealing with heat. So there was also already a heat vulnerability map developed in 2019, showing here on your right-hand side. And when you do this heat vulnerability maps, you take a look at the age of population groups, about the abundance of vegetation in the city, of watered areas, and you plot or display all the interactions, translating to some kind of vulnerability index in a simple graphic. And this information really is important for urban planning. It's getting more and more integrated into planning solutions and planning projects. It's not necessarily the most important criteria at the moment, but it slowly gets one of the most important criteria for urban planning, the urban climatic conditions. Not only Vienna, but also the city of Graz does very similar things. So they are building up a climate information system, which creates a climate monitoring for Graz and also the surrounding areas. And they use also drones or other technical measures to get high resolution thermal data and imaging data. Also 3D scanners are used to really understand and also to display and record how heat is not is generated, but is affecting also individuals and inhabitants in the city, because it's not only heat, so it's complicated. When you take a look at the picture, it's also about reflections of materials. It's about direct or indirect solar radiation. It's about also the air ventilation, which make an impact on the individual and on the single person. And it is a big challenge in urban planning to get resilient infrastructures to minimize the negative effects. Very similar endeavor is done in the city of Linz. So there is a picture here on the left-hand side of the climate analysis map. What is this climate analysis map doing? It shows so-called climate topes. So it shows, for example, areas where the cold air is generated. And because I'm working for the city of Linz, I can tell you that large amounts of cold air are coming here from the Mühlviertel area and flowing through the city. And therefore, it's very important to not block cold air movement going from the north to the southeast in Linz. And we also see areas with strong overheating. So like inner city, so my apartment is located in the old town, which is highly vulnerable and affected to heat. And we see, of course, here in the industrial area, also due to many thermal emissions from processes, from waste heat. We also see here areas with strong risk of overheating. And it's important to study the urban climatic conditions to get the right policies. So what's next, or what's also included in the adaptation strategy for Austria and what is relevant for cities? Forecasting systems, really important. Also having a look at how do other air pollution or other air particles interact with or transform under different temperature levels. So we have one project where we cooperate with the university, the local university, and also with a company in Innsbruck to get a feeling and more insights into how ozone and also other air pollutants react differently under different temperature regimes. which is also very important to understand the connections here. A really difficult thing is to reduce sealed surfaces, also traffic areas. But I think there's also some trend can be observed in practice. What's also needed is to really strengthen collaboration between cities. As a city of Linz, we collaborate with the city of Graz on a very regular basis, also with the city of Vienna. But we are also part of initiatives where more or less the 10 biggest cities are meeting every 2 or 3 months to exchange ideas and also to discuss solutions, and also sometimes on a very informal level, which is also very important. And of course, like the interesting example from Singapore, it's very important to promote also biodiversity and natural spaces, green spaces, when speaking about climate change. As you can see here, what cities are doing at the moment, and this was also recognized by the National Adaptation Strategy, they have plans. So they have action plans. Here, Vienna, Graz, and Linz, all 3 cities developed adaptation plans in the last 2 years. For instance, the Aktionsplan Klimawandel Anpassung Graz lists 11 adaptation action fields. And our strategy in Linz really promotes adaptation to be an integral and core point of urban development, and I think with increasing success. So in many Austrian cities, we see that defining climate change adaptation strategies, analyzing the urban climate conditions, and the greening of the infrastructure is becoming increasingly important in practice. So this was impacts, vulnerabilities, and also adaptation solutions. Let's have a look at the other very important pillar of climate action. So what about emissions and also energy use and mitigation actions in Austrian cities? Starting again with a more national view, Austria isn't really a pioneering state in reducing emissions. So have to be very careful when you hear this in Austrian media. We are not a pioneer, not at all. Some analyses also recognize that we belong to the failed ones in doing ambitious climate mitigation, because we don't see a strong decrease. So compared to the base year in 1990, we had in 2020 only a 8% decrease of emissions. So this is not enough, of course, to get climate neutral by 2040. The largest contributors of greenhouse gas emissions in Austria are energy industry, transport, agriculture, and also the building sector. This is displayed on the left side, and this is the national picture. And you will see later on the close-ups for the cities that cities can strongly differ from this assessment. So on the right-hand side, you see the changes of emissions per sector in the period 1990 to 2022. And we see that we had some developments in the energy and industry area sector, also in the buildings sector, also in the waste, and a little bit in the agricultural sector, but we have big troubles in traffic. And here, emission cuts are the most challenging, and this is also very true in urban traffic and climate policies. This was the production-based approach. So on this calculations and inventories, we look at what is really burned or used here in Austria. If you take a look also at the end use or consumption based side, so all the imports and materials and goods we get from other countries because they are produced in China or elsewhere, but are brought to Austria, and we use it, we consume it. We have a much higher emission situation. So the consumption-based emissions are 74% higher than the production-based emissions, and this differentiation is also very important. Taking a look and having for cities, this is also why I think that we need to speak about and also to act in sustainable consumption in urban policy. It's not easy because it's not the main core of urban competence, but it's necessary to support. Don't want to spend too much time on this sheet, but we need a strong reduction in national greenhouse gas emissions. So if we want to get climate neutral, this means 90% reduction of greenhouse gases, and we still deviate far as a country from this targeted vision, and we have set this goal by ourselves, or our decision makers have set these goals, and this is not a joke. 90%. It's really ambitious and difficult to achieve. If you count the emissions of Vienna, or if you're summing up the emissions of Vienna, Graz, and Linz, the greenhouse gas emissions from the production side, you will see that approximately 30% they are adding to the annual greenhouse gas emissions of Austria. But they are very different when you look at them individually. So Vienna, for example, when you take a look at the right-hand graph, you see quite an even contribution between some emission sectors. So we see some smaller part of industry-related emissions. We see a larger part here in traffic emissions, and then we have the waste and the building sector. Vienna, because Vienna not only is a city but also a Bundesland or a province. This is very important for all cities like Graz and also we in Linz, because this is sometimes used to, I would say to not to make an excuse, but we have this saying that, okay, Vienna is a province, they have more competences, they can get more ambitious, but because we in Linz, we have to collaborate with the country province of Upper Austria, Graz has to cooperate with the country of Styria and also Innsbruck to get effective climate mitigation solutions. For instance, in traffic, also needs to collaborate, and also in climate finance with the province of Tyrol. And this is not an easy task, and Vienna can solve this in one shot, so to say. But take a look at Linz. There we have a completely different situation. We have more emissions than Vienna in total. We have 87% industry-related emissions, which is huge. So the industry emissions of Linz are only the industry emissions are already 12% of Austria's national greenhouse gas emissions. So it's really huge due to steel production and also chemical industry. But we also have non-industry related emissions like other Austrian cities. So like coming from energy production, from district heating, buildings, of course, waste and traffic. But I think what's really important in Linz and other cities is that we need the right ingredients for doing change and also get solutions. This is ambitious policy, so political courage. We need innovative technologies, and we need social cohesion or social-based approach to really face this crisis and manage this crisis. Same for Graz. What I like about Graz is they have an interesting 40-10-1 rule. So they say by 2040, our greenhouse gas emissions will be reduced 10% by 10% by year. And so that in the end, we only leave 1 ton of emissions per capita up for compensation measures. And when you take a look at here and look at the greenhouse gas emission inventory, you see completely different picture than in Linz, for instance. So very, very interesting. Here is also some comparison of greenhouse gas emissions of Austrian cities. So you see what's probably most interesting is that if you do a per capita comparison, include industrial emissions, Linz has a per capita emission of 42 tons per capita, which is massive. So this is from an oil exploration, oil-based country. Have similar numbers. So you see differences between the cities, but what's also important to learn from this graph is that that basically cities they have a much lower per capita emission number than the Austrian average, because the daily life in a city can be, at least in theory, also in practice, can be managed quite efficiently in terms of emissions, but more later on. I think it's not the best idea to compare cities that closely. I think it's a necessary operation also for science, but in practice, we need, instead of comparisons and also comparisons made in media or for political reasons, we instead need strong collaboration and an exchange of solutions to achieve net zero emissions and to gain and get economic welfare and to promote sustainable lifestyles. These are the roadmaps for climate neutrality or net zero emissions and carbon management for the big 3 cities. So this is also the concept that was mentioned by Dr. Pfluger, which I had the honor to compile. And there we see different approaches. So we have cities like Graz who have many small effective measures listed in their plans, and we made the decision to get a little bit broader, but we defined in the end 52 mitigation measures for city of Linz. But what about other cities? So Klagenfurt is a very ambitious city in terms of emission reduction. It's also the only city in Austria which was selected to be part of the flagship EU mission 100 climate neutral cities by 2030. So it is allowed to use this label. It is a European Union emission label, and there are really interesting projects also going on in Klagenfurt. I will give you an example later on. What also is a very, as I see it, important activity in cities at the moment is the initiative by the Federal Ministry for Climate Protection. It's called Klimaneutrale Stadt or Climate Neutral City Mission. It's very similar to the European mission, but it has a national focus. And at the moment, 10 bigger cities in Austria, so Vienna, Graz, Klagenfurt, Linz, also Innsbruck, Dornbirn, and others, they cooperate with the federal ministry. We all receive, each city, 2 million euros for 5 years to build up more competences. So for instance, we installed one person 40 hours per week doing greenhouse gas accounting for the city of Linz. And there are examples, similar examples in other cities. So some cities, like also the city of Innsbruck, was able to install a climate department in their administration, for instance, also with this initiative. So this initiative really is a brilliant idea to connect cities and to share the knowledge. And another study of the Austrian Association of Cities and Towns, where I was able to get also a little piece of text into, was doing an analysis on climate policies. And we see that also cities like Eisenstadt in Burgenland or Amstetten or Kapfenberg are having climate mitigation policies in place and are doing setting their activities. So this was the part of what's the current state of emissions in Austrian cities, and what is here on a more strategic point of view, and also from a governance point of view. So as you can see, there is some interesting dynamics in there. So as I see it, also this climate neutral city mission by the federal ministry really boosted climate action in Austrian cities. And it's sometimes it's that easy that the federal ministry gives some amount of euros to cities, and they then they build up their competences. They use their know-how and also their own resources and bring them together and remanage, also from an organizational view, to get solutions to the ground in all the necessary fields. So in mobility, in buildings, in energy, and hopefully also more in consumption related questions. So for the last section, I would like to give you some insights into randomly selected, or at least projects that I really like, of climate action projects in Austrian cities. Let's start with Linz again, because my hometown. What's a really nice example of transforming also industrial areas in terms of adaptation is the new Harbor Park project by the Linz AG. It's around 18 meters high and covers an area of 3,600 square meters. This is a part of the whole harbor area, and this is a big storage house. And on this roof, you can see that it was able to create walkways, also to plant flower beds and shrubs and zones, activity zones, specially designed zones for children and teenagers. And this is open to citizens also living in this vulnerable industrial district or area. I need to also to say something about industrial transformation going on in Linz. So what really is interesting, at least in my city at the moment, is that we see strong ambitions in the industry. So the voestalpine, the steelmaking company, they are currently building electric arc furnaces, and they're using electricity and also will use green hydrogen to decarbonize their steelmaking process. And they go in operation in 2027, and these two furnaces, one in Linz and the other in Donawitz, they will save 30% of the company's carbon emissions already, and which is already 5% of Austrians' emissions, of Austrians' annual emissions. So this is a huge transformation project. And in my team, I have one manager dealing with project manager dealing with green hydrogen industries. So we as a city administration have a full-time job specialist also assisting the industry. If you have the opportunity going to Graz, I think this is one of the most interesting urban development projects at the moment in Austria, the Reininghaus project. At the moment there is a lot of construction going on there for building homes in a district for 10,000 more people, with lots of green spaces, attractive footpaths, cycle paths, and good public transportation connection. And what I like about this project is that some buildings also meet the ambitious Klimaaktiv standard for energy efficient and climate friendly construction. And this is something which I think is a good standard, and we as other cities, also in Linz and elsewhere, we need to also go into this direction. Maybe not the technical solution, but a financial incentive is the funding program Klima Euro Plus of the city of Graz, where private initiatives and groups of private people can get up to 1,500 euros of funding if they, for instance, want to establish a carpool in the neighborhood, want to set or organize a climate-friendly event, or make other activities related to climate change. So I think this is a wonderful example to foster bottom-up ideas in climate action. It's similar going on in Vienna. So the Wiener Klimateam is a citizen participation project, and it is steadily realizing climate solutions and district or Kretzel ideas, as they say in Viennese. And this is where people can hand in or name or define climate-related solution ideas. And you can see that, for instance, the district of Floridsdorf in the year 2023, nearly 500 of such ideas were collected. And the best ideas, after an expert assessment of the citizen jury, they also realized with the help of the city. Of course, infrastructure and public transport is key to climate-friendly cities. And one example, I think, is also a very ambitious project is the underground connection U2, U5 in Vienna. So it creates 300 million additional public transport users, and it also has a lot of CO2 savings potential if you compare it with car waste. So these are mega projects, of course, but they are necessary to offer alternatives to people to commute and also to find their ways and travel sustainable. Klagenfurt, I mentioned it before, is Austria's city in the European Cities Mission, and there is a very interesting project going on there. They created an information point for citizens, companies, and other organizations for realizing climate-related and smart project ideas. And it's called the Smart Climate Lab in Klagenfurt. It's some kind of a think tank also for projects. And at the moment, there are working 5 highly skilled project managers. This is also a very nice example of how climate action can get boosted in practice. Innsbruck, I'm sure some of you all know this. They have one part or one challenge in this climate neutral mission is to decarbonize a district or a quarter. And what this Innsbruck is doing is there is some existing Eichhof district, and Innsbruck is working on with stakeholders also to decarbonize this area, and as said before, has already created new internal structures in city administration for climate neutrality, and I think this is really needed. That cities have skilled personnel and own units and strong, effective units to get actions done, and also to consult or inform policy or decision makers with robust information. Other example is from Villach. There will be a green access to the city center, so like a green continuous avenue is created there from the railway station to the city park. And what's also becoming a standard is when planting trees, cities use increasingly the sponge city concept. So trees that have the ability to absorb a lot of water in the soil and also to evaporate water afterwards. Also, the city of Amstetten is doing getting rid of sealed surfaces and also boosting the active mobility. So like the main square there in Amstetten should become greener and shadier, and it also means to revise traffic concepts. And in the end, there will be more water elements and less sealed surfaces, which of course increases heat resilience for people there. And the last example I've brought to you is from Vorarlberg, from the city of Bregenz. Bregenz unfortunately has the highest proportion of fossil fuels for heating in Austrian cities, at least for the provincial capitals, for 90%. And what Bregenz is now doing is also use waters from the Bodensee for heating and the cooling supply of for instance, an indoor pool, or also the culturally very important and touristically the Festspielhaus with heat pump and free cooling technology. So there are many opportunities for action. I hope to have given you a good understanding and an overview about what's also possible, and also what are the challenges for urban climate action at the moment in Austria. And this is my final statement. So many Austrian cities have already started their local climate transformation, but now it will really depend on whether they succeed in rolling out the flagship project, and hopefully no longer bow to fossil fuel age logics also in urban development. So this is really needed to reach to get climate neutral and get well planned, attractive, climate resilient cities and urban areas in the future. So thank you very much for your attention, and I'm looking forward having a discussion. Thank you. So if you let me take your hand and
And zwei, drei. Okay. Yeah, any questions? Yeah, thank you.
So I think you mentioned it a few times. The question is about the consumption of energy. And as it was shown in the chart, energy and like household energy is one of the main contributor to the emissions in Austria. So my question is there a campaign, or are there any methods to educate the city's population towards less consumption? Because all the programs you mentioned were more about like city planning, or like, I don't know, more towards like sustainable living, but for me, I was just thinking if there is a big need to reduce, even if we manage to change to a completely neutral or sustainable energy. Like, I think it's not gonna be enough. So, is there any campaign going on, or what do you think would be best?
Yeah, good question. So many Austrian cities, I would guess, all of the ambitious cities in terms of mitigation objectives, they are having their energy saving campaigns, not only run by the administration, but probably also run by the city-owned companies. So, for instance, I think it's called what's called the energy, the city-owned energy company in Innsbruck. Yeah, exactly. IKB, or I don't know, the Linz AG in Linz. They also have their energy saving campaigns, so educational campaigns, awareness raising campaigns, which is sometimes or very often supported by the administration or by the climate teams there. But what really is going on at the moment, and I think this is some kind of a global or also European-wide phenomenon, also after the Russian aggression and also the difficulties with natural gas supply or gas supply from Russia. We see, I think, a good, or at least I see a good pace of increasing the renewable share also in heat supply. So, for instance, in Linz, we invest and we build currently large-scale heat pumps in the biomass plant, for instance. We are more effectively using the steam from these plants. And what also is going on at the moment is, for example, again in Linz, the power plants are prepared for taking over green hydrogen by 2030. So, because when we have also a safe and also a green supply of hydrogen on a European level, we can also use this for further decarbonizing heat supply in cities. So I think there is both. Yes.
But should there be more education for?
I think
if I go to Innsbruck or go to the TV, I don't see anything. Like now, it's just my.
I think that's a difficult question. So how much education is enough? I think it's important to invest in awareness raising and educational campaigns. I'm not sure. I'm not aware of a campaign in Innsbruck dealing with balcony photovoltaics, for instance. We have this at the moment in Linz. We have a project there. And what's really important is we have recently started, and many cities are doing so, also in Vienna, some kind of social funds for energy poverty. So I think this is also an important topic when speaking about energy. Thanks.
Yeah, thank you. But also what was interesting in your question that you said it's not enough to change from carbon-driven technology to renewables. It's also about savings. Even if we have changed to renewables, we have to save energy because it's a matter of resources. Then it's not a matter of CO2 emissions anymore, but on resources, and they still remain if we don't save energy. So your question is fully right, and also teaching or information is rather important. Thank you. Other questions? Yeah.
Okay, my question is, yeah, I know you are promoting green energy and we are going against carbon energy. What about countries that their natural resources are majorly carbon energy, like Russia, fossil fuel? If we are trying to promote green energy and these people are still the major distributors of fossil fuel, it's like they might not want it to succeed. So how do we balance it? You know, how do we balance such things so that they want to make money through business too, and you are promoting green energy. So how do we balance it between the countries that have natural resources in abundance and the promotion of green energy? Thank you.
Maybe what I'm most experienced, or let me give you just an impression. For two years ago, I went with a colleague of mine to the city of Rotterdam, to the Netherlands, and where we attended the World Hydrogen Summit. And during this summit, there were officials from many different countries. So, for instance, from Greenland, from Argentina, from Korea, from Namibia, and then many international, many different countries were attending there, and also officials from the European Commission. And there was a clear picture that it only can work, also the energy transformation, and especially when speaking about green hydrogen, if we build the supply chain and also the imports and also the logistics of these energy carriers in a way that profits are equally distributed about everybody participating in this new business model. Let's put it this way. So I think that's the only option that we can handle such a situation. So maybe what's also going on at the moment is that you can see at the conference at the parties, annual climate conferences, is that countries like Austria or the European Union, we need to also export and also share our technologies, innovations, know-how, as well as to invest in adaptation programs elsewhere, countries where we see much more stronger climate impacts and more damages. And I think it only can work if we strengthen the international collaboration and diplomacy to achieve a climate neutral world. I think it's impossible. It's not an European solution or an I don't know Asian solution to get this transformation done. I think it only will work if we share the ambitions. Yeah, worldwide. Yeah.
Another question? Maybe one question from my side. You're working for the city of Linz, and you do work which is long-lasting. It takes 10 years, 20 years, many decades to have these transformations. But politicians work normally for 4 years, election times in durations of, they think, in durations of 4 years. How to ensure that these long-lasting processes will take place and continue? So how are you coupled with the politicians, which think in shorter time periods? You are working in decades. How do you solve this problem?
It's indeed a big challenge, because I don't think this is it's a taboo, because we all experience this, that we have strong populism in Austria and Europe. And this is, of course, very difficult, and also a big problem for evidence-based policies. climate policy. And what at least what we are doing, or my colleagues and I are doing, is to the way dealing with this is to get as much robust information translated to decision makers, and also to build new alliances, like the collaboration with the federal ministry, for instance, or we as the city of Linz, we cooperate with the Climate Change Center Austria, for instance, to get new alliances between administration staff and climate scientists, for instance, to get actions and programs on the ground, and also get them through the official democratic process, so through the city council decisions. And I think it's very important to show decision makers that it's not when you do, I don't know, when you invest in trams, or when you start build fast lane cycle highways to other neighboring cities or communities. It's not. This is not the benefit you get. Isn't the emission reduction? But the benefit you get is you will be an attractive city. People want to live in your city. It's a healthy city. It's probably the city can get a good image also from these things. And you have to find also the political language as an administrator, as a staff member of administration. At the same time, getting evidence-based information, on the other hand, understanding the political process and trying also to speak their language. I think this is very, very challenging. Doesn't work every time, but I think the wrong approach would be would be to I don't know, getting cynical about this. So I think you have to really find the common language. It's in a positive way, and also be clear about wrong directions. So about big infrastructure projects, fossil-based projects, highway projects, and or stuff like that, or sealing of many green areas, and there you have to show also the red line with the data, together with the alliance.
Is it possible for cities to prescribe, for example, a building standard for a specific area in the city? This area may be built only in a high good energy standard, or is it possible for a city to go this far?
Yes, it depends. We have instruments like the Bauordnung, for instance, or we also as cities define how it's called Wettbewerbe, städtebauliche Wettbewerbe. Yeah,
competitions, yeah.
And there you can place the standards or the ambitions you would like to see in the end. Or for example, we also have example from Linz. We have also the option, and we are doing this to prescribe green roofs, to prescribe for every newly constructed building we get a certain amount of photovoltaic on it. But the really difficult thing is that for green energy, for building materials, this isn't already a standard. So I think we are slowly developing in this direction. I cannot assess at the moment if it's fast enough, but prescribing circular building materials and climate friendly building materials is a big challenge at the moment. And what really would help is also a strong climate protection law from the federal side of the nation, which is missing.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, other questions? Yeah.
Hello. Thanks very much for the presentation and for the different examples from local actions towards the governance level. It's hard to not become cynical, I think, when I think about the current situation in this country, because it's all pretty optimistic what you're saying, and I'd like to be optimistic, but when it comes down to let's say look at the restoration law, which is not becoming true right now because there's a kind of a political still stand. We have the same situation in our university, for example. We have a lot of talk, but less action. it's all good to talk about the future and we'll become sort of this and that. And you talked about hydrogen plants in 15 years probably. But what comes to my mind really is what the lady said before. What about savings, which could become true tomorrow? What about actions which will show our younger generation, okay, we do a little bit and we see an impact, and not waiting for the old white man to make a decision in a couple of years. So not becoming cynical is really quite difficult, I guess. And I'm really coming to a question which drives me. Are you really sort of so optimistic as you put it out in this presentation, or is it a bit of a show, if you like, because we have a climate Vorlesung and we all want to see progress, but now what's the reality really?
It's not my aim to run a show, of course not, but because I'm a serious guy actually, and what I think of. I think I need to be optimistic, and what also gives me optimism is I'm doing this for several years now, and what I see is I see a learning process. I see that we can scale things. So for just one example, Linz has 110,000 commuters each day. How to bring them away from cars, and we had a big success in the last weeks. We have the financial agreement for 2 railway lines together with the state and the province and the city. And this project, this is now consensus, and it takes some time to build. But in the end, it will give 40,000 people an opportunity to switch to public transport. And I was involved into the agreement and in the policy process, and it really gave me confidence that all 3 levels strongly collaborated, and we get ambitious projects. And what really is difficult is to, as I put it on the sheets, get away from the fossil age logics. And I share your impression. I think there is not enough speed, but we are building up speed now. And I believe in it, and otherwise I couldn't work in such a job. Thanks, but important question.
Yeah, thank you very much. So unfortunately, we ran out of time. Thank you for coming. Thank you for your questions and for participating in the discussion. So we have a look in the chat if there's something. Okay, no problem. No other questions. So yeah, thank you again, and see you next time. Again, here in the lecture hall or online. Yeah, thank you and goodbye.